What is up, guys? Welcome to another YouTube video. In this one, we are going to be testing GameStop's PSA turnaround times. Now, when GameStop first announced that they were going to be doing these PSA submissions, I did one on the very first day, and it went pretty okay. On the way back, there was a little bit of confusion and I was a little frustrated because like the manager had to be the one to sign off. So like they had my order, but I couldn't pick it up for like 4 or 5 days. It was really strange. I'm gonna chalk that up to the fact that it was brand new and those people were doing that process for the very first time. Overall, I've been fairly impressed with GameStop's offering as far as the PSA graded submission goes. I did a video on this channel about what all of that entails, so if you're interested, go check that out. But today and in this video, we are going to be testing the turnaround time. So I've been grading a ton of cards recently through PSA, directly through my own Collectors Club account, probably a little over 200 cards in the past 4 or 5 months. But I wanna test the turnaround times because turnarounds for me have been pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. Not only have my bulk orders been taking a really long time, which they typically do, but my express orders, paying $40 per card with a 21-day business day turnaround, both orders I've done recently are currently way past the business day, 21 business day turnaround. That is the ultimate question. Will grading through GameStop prove to be faster than grading directly through PSA yourself? I have a theory that I think it probably will, the turnaround time will probably end up being pretty good. Here's my theory. I think that companies that grade directly with PSA as like a third party middleman, I think a company like GameStop that has such a large account or such a large partnership with PSA, I think, you know, they would never admit this, but my theory is that I think that they prioritize orders a little bit quicker. And what I mean by that is they are going to lean into making sure that your turnaround times are as accurate to what they say they will be with a large account like that, like with GameStop, for example, because they do so much business. So for example, me, Jonathan Miller, with Music City Games, grading a 12 card order, if you disappoint me, the likelihood of me affecting your bottom line versus disappointing an account like GameStop where you have, you know, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of cards getting graded more frequently, like naturally I'm gonna be a little bit lower on the priority list because there's only so many graders, there's only so many people in the process that can do QA checks and that can put cards in holders and that can answer customer service emails and yeah, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. PSA only has so many people that are working to get all these cards graded. So naturally, when the demand is far greater than the operational output, some people are gonna fall through the cracks is all I'm saying. So that is my explanation of why I think that this is gonna end up being the case where grading through GameStop, for example, will be quicker than me grading through like the basic bulk submission on my own. How much quicker? We'll see. All right, guys, we are here in GameStop. Got my guy Nathan here, and I'm gonna show you guys the process a little bit of what this looks like. So the first thing that Nathan told me that's interesting is that I had these in my own semi-rigids, but what GameStop is doing is that they actually want you to, they provide the semi-rigids now. So they will actually have you put your cards in their semi-rigids. Not really sure why, but I'm okay with it because that means you know, I get to save some on my own stuff. So they provide those. I am kind of curious, Nathan. So I have done a submission through GameStop before. Okay. And I did it on like day one, like right when it happened. Right. And the process submitting was like super smooth. The one thing that was significant is that you don't have to provide, like I don't have to fill out a submission form. Right. You essentially like take a picture of everything and it's good to go.
We do
so
it all through our tablet. So.
That is kind of nice because the process of going through and filling out a submission form can be, you know, can take some time. That's probably the worst part of the process, I would say. So now my question is, these are kind of small Ultra Pro ones, so my worry is how easy are these gonna go in, because I've used these before and they are a super pain. So let's see.
They are pretty tight, although that does secure them during shipping, so it is nice, although they
Yeah.
can be a pain.
Okay, so yeah, so that's my first thing I'm worried about here, is that these are really difficult to get in. These are the smaller Ultra Pro ones, which I don't know what the size is off the top of my head, but the ones that I was using are like the bigger ones, and you can't really, I mean, it's a noticeable difference. Probably like what, like a ½ inch or something, but that is not super fun. So we'll take some time to get this in here. But just to kind of walk through the process a little bit, just to see if anything has changed on your guys' side from what I know. So we get these in these semi-rigids, then what do we do from there?
So I get the tablet, I take pictures of all of them for PSA, and then it will charge you per card. So I believe for Pokemon it's about $18 a card.
Okay.
Once everything's filed onto the tablet, I pretty much do everything. You don't have to do anything once you really get them in the sleeves.
Gotcha.
I'll transfer it over to our computer,
gosh.
you'll check out, and then we'll give you updates on how that's going throughout the process.
Gotcha, okay. Oof. Yeah, so that my only feedback here is it's like, oh man, like some of these it's like not that big of a deal, but some of these cards are pretty expensive, so I don't want to. So the theory is that in terms of submissions getting prioritized to get completed, in theory, these should make it through. Probably not much, but maybe a little faster than they would. Because like right now, I have an order that I submitted that's 80 cards. And that 80 card order is still in research and ID, which is the first part of the process.
Right, yeah.
So, and it's been gone for like almost a full month now.
No, I think it is actually, I don't know if it's confirmed, but we do get our cards back pretty quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, so there's a lot of people that have been grading online. Like, so there's a huge community of people that kind of tested the theory,
Right.
and the feedback generally, for the most part, seems to be that you get them back pretty quick through GameStop. So I know you guys are probably being told to say like, hey, it'll be about 3 months,
Right.
but I think the reality is that I wouldn't be surprised to see these back in like 40 business days, maybe.
Probably, for sure.
So we'll see. That's what this is about. That's what this video is for. That process took a very long time. That's the one piece, my one thing that I'm not thrilled about right now is just having to use the smaller semi-rigid, so it's just incredibly hard to get the card inside of the semi-rigid in the penny sleeve. In some cases, I was like, literally you have to push on the top of the card pretty hard in order to shimmy it in, and so I'm legitimately worried that I could have like scuffed up the top edge of the card, which is literally a grading category for PSA. So I'll never know. I guess we can see. I mean, I am curious when these cards get back to see what the gem rate is on some of these, because I've been doing really well, honestly, on my own. I've had very, very, very good gem rates. So if we see a noticeable, I'm just kind of curious. We don't have subgrade categories, so I won't know if the edge was actually damaged or hurt or whatever, but I'm curious. So anyways, if anybody from GameStop is watching this, that's the one thing you guys definitely need to change. We need to be able to go back to the bigger or semi-rigid that is just easier to get the card in and out. I'm sure, I don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe they felt like in transit it had something to do with like, maybe the cards could move around and get damaged potentially, but I just don't see if that was secured properly with like a team bag or like a bag in general. Maybe rubber band them together, something that would secure them tightly enough to where they wouldn't move. I don't know, but I will say like that, it was almost, if I wasn't recording a video, I probably would have been like, this is not worth it. I'm just going to send on my own. That's how much like, how much anxiety I had when I'm like pushing some of these cards into the sleeves. But anyways, enough of that. We got it done. All good. Nathan right now is currently taking a look at these and getting them all pictured up essentially, which is part of the process with GameStop. They just simply take a picture of several cards in this case, because there's 44 of them, and then submits them into the part of their process. I did just ask Nathan the question that I got the most from my first GameStop PSA submission video that I did, which was, what does the insurance policy look like? Like if a card gets lost or whatever, do GameStop cover it for a certain amount or whatever? And basically that, whatever you can expect as far as insurance coverage from PSA is what you can expect from GameStop. You have a customer portal that's in your GameStop account with PSA when you do a PSA submission. So if there's any issues there, PSA and GameStop corporate, I'm assuming, talk and are able to cover it for a certain maximum value. I'm assuming that maximum declared value is probably $500 per card, which is what's standard for most bulk or standard submissions. So now if I have anything over that, which obviously the question is, if you have a card that's worth $400 raw and then it grades a 10 and becomes a $1,000 card, do they only cover it for $500 or what? I'm pretty sure that process, you just all go through GameStop's customer service and then get you squared away. Nathan said he hasn't run into that much, and I don't assume that case happens very often. So there it is. Just got done. The one thing that I will say that I was a bit surprised by this time around, and maybe this happened the first time, I actually don't remember, is that I had to pay for it up front. So the full submission cost, which was nearly $900 for 44 cards, had to pay for it up front. So interesting. We shall see how this one goes. I don't know how I feel about that, because what if I have to get upcharged? Then I just pay it again then? I don't know. Interesting. We'll see how this one goes. Alrighty guys, it is finally time. I just got the update. Today is Tuesday, September 9th, and so it is now time to pick up my order. I dropped off my order at GameStop on July 23rd, and it is now ready to pick up September 9th. That's just shy, a day before 7 weeks. So about a month and a half, which is what the expected turnaround time is at 45 business days. But sometimes the business days, it's extended and it's like 2 months. And how it's been previously this year when it was really, really bad was every bit of 3 months before you would see your cards back. So this is faster technically, but at the same time, it is around the expected turnaround time. So overall, 44 cards getting back in 7 weeks from drop off to pick up, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. However, there has been some updates to GameStop's policy with the PSA orders, some things that are a little bit different this go around. So I'm definitely gonna have some feedback, but first things first, before we go and pick up the cards, let me show you guys the dashboard really fast. So taking a quick look, there you have it. There's the order date, and here's the little dashboard system. Now, what I will say about GameStop's dashboard, which is what this is here, I don't love this process in comparison to PSA's, because this is the entire drop-down window of what you can expect, and it shows you arrived, processing, research ID, blah, 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 right? This is what GameStop shows you, but I don't know. The whole process is just a little bit, I don't know, I just don't prefer it, is maybe just the best way to say it. It did also give me an update right here on the screen where it shows me that 2 of my cards got upgraded. That's good news. That means that maybe 2 of my cards got higher grades than were expected. Now you can click on this. I'm not gonna show this because it's gonna show the list of the cards. I will say the one thing that I like grading with PSA directly with when it comes to the dashboard system and when your cards are ready to be viewed after they've been graded is PSA has this really cool reveal grade slideshow, for lack of a better term, that's really cool, where you see the card and you can flip it yourself and then it'll shoot confetti if it's a 10, and if not, it just reveals the grade. It's just a really cool way to reveal the grade now, as opposed to, kind of doing it old school and just seeing what you got. The one thing that I don't love about GameStop's portal and dashboard here is that it's just a list, and it just shows you, when the grades are ready, it'll just be like, boom, here's the grades, and it'll just show you along with the graded number. But sometimes you don't know the description of the card that you submitted, so you don't know exactly what the card is. You can click the certification number and it'll route you to PSA's website where it'll show you. But for me, I just don't love the presentation of it personally, and I really enjoy what PSA has done when you grade directly through them. So anyways, that's just a little sneak peek of what the dashboard looks like. It's really nothing special, but they do a pretty decent job of keeping you updated. So it's better than nothing, certainly. But let's go ahead and pick up the cards. I'm going to reveal the grades for the cards that I submitted in this order so you guys can see what we got. And as I do that, we will talk about my full breakdown, my full review of what to expect and what I think about the grading process with PSA through GameStop. Let's go get the cards. All right, guys, we are back here in the office. Just picked up my PSA order from GameStop, as you guys know by this point. Now let's get into the specifics. What I thought, how I thought the process went. I'm gonna reveal the cards that I submitted. I submitted 44 cards. I wanted to do like a lot of cards, and I wanted to try to stress the situation the best I could, so that way we could get the best possible outcome, right? And really see the full range of what the process could potentially do for you, right? So in other words, I didn't want to just submit like 4 cards or something. So anyways, 44 cards. I didn't get a chance to record inside this time. It was 2 new employees I hadn't talked to. It was kind of busy in there. It just didn't really feel appropriate. So picked those up. The process was fairly simple. There was an upcharge of $10. 2 cards basically were worth more than the minimum, which was a $200 maximum value on each card, which was funny, and I'll get into that. I have some positives. I have some pros and some cons for you guys that we're going to talk about and dive into here. Just diving right in, I'm going to show off these cards. I'm not necessarily going to talk about every single one of them because I want to really focus on the pros and cons for you guys here for this, and then give you guys a overall assessment. So the first one's a banger, by the way. This is the Gen 1 pack. I believe this is the Chinese Gen 1 pack. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, but this is the Sprigatito. Really clean card, and this one was a 10. I'm not sure. I don't think this was one of the ones that got the upcharge or whatever. I don't think it was, because it's under $200 in value. But let's dive right into those reasons, right? And I want to talk about the upcharge situation. So basically, PSA upcharges if the value exceeds the desired or specific maximum value for whatever service level you've submitted your cards at, right? And so for me, I submitted them at the bulk level with GameStop, which is like basically the bare minimum, essentially. And that means it's $200 in value. So any card that they deem over $200 in value, you get an upcharge to the next tier based on what the value is. So in my instance, I got 2 $5 bumps on 2 cards because they were more than $200 in value, but less than $500 in value based on PSA's assessment or based on GameStop's assessment of that card value. And that could be an aggregate that they take through from eBay. I don't know the specific, if they use a specific software like the same software backend stuff that Alt uses or Card Ladder. I'm assuming it's something along those lines. So that's why I had the upcharge. So let's dive right into the positives. The first pro, as we get into the next card here, little disappointing. This guy was a 9. The first pro is there was a 7-week turnaround time. So you guys saw the Destin Rivals Team Rockets Ariana in a 10. We like that. These, by the way, the 44 cards, 2 of them, the 21 and 22 cards came in this box, or 20 and 21 cards, and then the 3 just came in like a bag. So not really sure about that and what that situation was. But anyways, 7 weeks turnaround time. That's pretty darn good, guys. That's pretty darn good. Like I said earlier in the video, it was kind of expected. Oopsies. It was kind of expected, but I will say I was pleased with how quickly they were able to get us taken care of there. So, for bulk submission, the upcharge situation for most cards is going to be less than $500. So if you only get like a $5 upcharge, that's no big deal. But to go along with the positive, the pro that we just did, let's pair the turnaround time with a con. Really quickly, let me show you this beautiful guy. Another 10. Man, I'm really good at grading this Rayquaza. I've had really good luck with that Mega Rayquaza. But anyways, let's pair that 7-week turnaround time with one of the cons. And one of those cons with the turnaround time was paying up front. So earlier, you used to, and by earlier I mean like in the past year or so, when they first rolled out this service, GameStop did, you used to be able to, you would pay at the end when you pick up your cards. This one's a heater. Only a 5. Nothing crazy. I thought it was really clean for a 5. That's crazy. But anyways, you used to be able to, you would pay at the end whenever you pick up your cards. A couple of vintage cards coming your guys' way. A 6, bummer. You used to be able to pay your cards whenever you pick them up, which was really nice with GameStop because the significance there is that, like, let's say I didn't want this Gengar because it was a PSA 6 and I didn't like it, and I thought the return value, because I'm a pro member with GameStop, that I would get a significant bump in the trade-in credit. Well, you could use that trade-in credit. Like, I could turn this into them before I pay, and this could help pay for my submission, which was a really, really cool feature that that GameStop had for their PSA submissions whenever they would come back. Well, that's no longer the case because you have to pay for your submission up front now, which on one side of the coin, you know, is understandable why they would have it that way, I suppose, but it's a little upsetting because of the really cool perk that GameStop provided whenever you didn't have to come out of pocket, which, by the way, that's how it works now for PSA. For those of you that don't submit regular submissions on your own, you don't have to pay up front. You have a card on file, and then whenever the submission is completed, it passes QA checks and it's on its way back to you. That's when they charge your card. So a little disappointing that GameStop doesn't offer that anymore because there were several cards. Look at this. Look at this Power Keeper Shift Tree. 12 million cert 9, baby. I thought this card was super clean. Dang, bro, a 9? That's really good. I'm not mad about it. I'm just like, dang. We were so close to a 10 on this card. That would have been sick. Not exactly the most popular card from Power Keepers, but a cool one, right? Anyways. So a little disappointing there. Moving on. We have the another pro. I'm gonna try to weave these in and out. Another pro that I really like is that you have free shipping as a member. Now, the member perks are not quite as juicy as they were when this first came out, but that's okay. There's still really good member perks with free shipping that you don't have to pay. Now, for those of you that grade your own stuff, you know that on the way back, that shipping is, ooh, man, it's tough. It's upwards of $50. It can be pretty pricey. So, a lot of 10s with my celebration stuff here. That's really cool. Oh, I just realized my Reshiram and my Zekrom both 10'd. That's awesome. Cool. So free shipping, great perk. On the other side of that coin, obviously a con being having to pay up front. Let's go back over there. The process for getting these cards into the semi-rigid, if you guys saw earlier in the video, it was like really stressful because the semi-rigids you have to use feel like Yu-Gi-Oh size, which is like a smaller card. It was a real pain for me to squeeze these cards into those tiny little semi-rigids, and it took me, I'm not exaggerating, guys, it took me like 30 to 45 minutes to get 44 cards into those tiny semi-rigids. I had to use those. Now, GameStop provides them, which was really nice, but you have to sit there in the store and like force these poor cards into these semi-rigids. Some of these smaller cards got 10s, which is cool, so that's good. Didn't affect those, but could it have affected some of these? Maybe like this card? Potentially, right? So having those small semi-rigids, which I now believe might actually be a PSA thing. This one's nuts, by the way, guys. Hold on, we have to take a quick moment. A 6? What are we talking about, bro? A PSA 6? What? Oh, look, I'm seeing it on the camera right now. Oh, there's like a little indentation right there, right where the light's in the middle there. You guys see it? Well, that, wow. I didn't see that when I submitted it. That's the first one I've ever had like that. Well, that's a bummer. So anyways, yeah, so the small semi-rigid thing is like a PSA thing now. I'm not super fond of that. It was actually a really frustrating process. I don't really understand the logic in it, I suppose, because you don't want the card to move around, and it's more liability on PSA's side if it moves around in packaging and potentially makes a card that would have been a 10 and one of their graders grades it harshly. I suppose that's the only thing I could think of, but that just feels a little ridiculous. So anyways, moving on, the next positive we have easy for anyone to do. So this process, as you guys saw, incredibly easy. This is the biggest benefit to you grading with GameStop. If you are someone who does not want to go through the process with PSA, or maybe you find it overwhelming in any way, maybe you're brand new to this and you're like, oh goodness, I'm overwhelmed. Man, this card is really cool and it nined. Oh, such a sick Pikachu. And you're really overwhelmed, then grading through GameStop is a great opportunity for you to do that. You just bring in your cards. You have to handle them into the semi-rigids, so there's a little bit of a, process there. But overall, it's a very smooth process and great, honestly. So that is maybe one of the biggest takeaways, is that if you're someone who finds this potential process overwhelming in any way, then that's a huge pro in the category of if you should or should not grade through GameStop, because I will admit the process was very easy, and outside of it taking forever for me to get these things into those tiny little semi-rigids, it was pretty smooth outside of that. All right, next one, as we get into our second box here, the next con that I have for you guys is the dashboard, the GameStop dashboard. Now, for someone who's brand new to this, you're not going to know one way or another whether the dashboard is good or bad, as I struggle to open this. But for someone who has graded with PSA and is really fond of their process, and just like the way it looks, I actually really love the way GameStop does their grade reveals and the way they do their dashboard. It's very transparent. You can see everything really easily. It's just a good process. It's just a really, really awesome process. We got a banger at the top, guys. Oh my gosh. Don't mind that. Don't mind me not me dropping my camera. But anyways, another banger that only got a 6. Sad. So yeah, I don't love the grade reveal process is maybe my biggest con. It just kind of is boring compared to what PSA has. It's a little frustrating. Because PSA does a great job of revealing the grade to you, and you can do it in the app, and you can turn it, you can flip it over like you're revealing a pack or something. It's just cool. It's just really cool. So a little disappointing that they just give you a white piece of paper basically that has the grade and name on it. So a little frustrating there, but hopefully they can make some adjustments and maybe take the grade reveal process in some form or fashion and implement it into the GameStop dashboard of some sort, or GameStop just build in their own would be really cool. So keeping it rolling here, they did ask me about trade-ins. So you still have the benefit of trade-ins when you are a member. Not only do you get the free, here's the 2 bangers of the entire thing here, a couple of Evo Skies, alts, and 10s, which is pretty cool. So you do get a little bonus when you're a pro member where you can trade these in and get a boost. I did not try that this time around because I use my slabs for a number of things. So I don't mind the smaller slabs, keeping them. But for the most part, at least the way it was, someone will have to confirm what it looks like now. But essentially what we had before was at the pro boost, you get a little boost for your trade-in credit, and it would be close to 90% comps in the market, which is pretty darn good. So something to consider there. If you could still turn around and take your cards that you graded with GameStop, and you can submit them to, you can trade them in to GameStop, and you can use them for other things. You could trade in your PSA cards and get a PlayStation or something. So that's kind of cool. Moving on, we have, I guess the last major con that I have for you guys, that was a little bit of a bummer on my side, to be completely honest, was I never got an email. I never got an email that was like, hey, your cards are ready. So again, shipped these off on July 23rd. It is now Tuesday, September 9th. And, I did not get an email. I just knew to check, and like anybody who submits cards regularly to PSA, we are paranoid all the time and constantly checking the dashboard to see if the process has updated to the next stage. So I checked, and that's how I knew my cards were ready. GameStop didn't call me. GameStop didn't email me. I got nothing from PSA. I got no confirmation that my cards are ready to pick up. That's a little annoying. I think the reason for that is that whenever they receive the cards, there's something they have to do in the system to tell it like, hey, the cards are ready to be picked up. And I think that happens from the manager. And I only know that because I graded cards with GameStop through PSA the very first weekend, or the very first day that they announced it. And whenever the cards came back, I was talking with the manager, speaking with the manager a lot, and he mentioned that. That there's like a button they have to click to basically confirm they've received it. That tells the system to send out to the customer, hey, it's ready to be picked up. Oh, and this is cool. This next set is pretty neat. I'll show you guys. A sequential set of legendary Gen 1 birds. They're actually not from the same set at all. These are all from basically different sets, but I thought they looked similar. Like they might be in this, like, you know, they look like they could be from the same set. So I just thought it was cool if they were sequential. Unfortunately, they got a 5, 6, and 7. Wait, that's dope, actually. Hold on, guys. Do you see that? So the Articuno is first in the sequence 6295, and it got a 5. The Moltres is second, and it got a PSA 6, and it's 6296. And then the Zapdos is a PSA 7, and it was 6297. Hold on, that's kind of cheeky. Look, this is hyper niche, and I doubt this is going to matter because they're not even from the same set. But that's kind of cool, though, right? Anyways, that was completely accidental. I did not... Wow, what are the odds? What are actually the odds of that? That's neat. Huh. Anyways, so yeah, no email, which was a little bit of a bummer, not going to lie. Closing this thing out, though, the upcharge was small and was simple and easy, and we enjoyed that. But the process was consistent with what you would expect with PSA. So even though the dashboard isn't quite as good, and you know the process is a little bit more guarded, and the grade reveal is a little less fancy and fun, I've really been enjoying the grade reveal app, or feature, I should say, for PSA. So to not have something like that, and you kind of have to do this with it, which some people prefer that anyway. Other than that, the process was actually pretty darn smooth. I was, you know, this was the other guy that I got dinged on, because this one's over. It's like close to $300 or something. But other than that, the process was pretty smooth. Basically, the amount of time that you would expect for your cards to process, that's how long it took, and that's what it looked like. So it was fairly smooth, I would say there. And this was the big one from the submission. The Lily's Clefairy in a 10. Pretty cool. So all of that to be said, guys, this is my overall takeaway from the submission. My overall takeaway is GameStop has made some adjustments from when they first launched this service that, in my opinion, are a little less ideal. And what I mean by that is, like, I really like the fact that they had some, a pretty cool process for trading in. And I like the fact that you didn't have to pay until a certain point. And when you pick them up, and then you could use those cards to trade them in and pay for the submission. That to me was such a big deal that someone like me who grades regularly through PSA could very easily and simply say, okay, this is a big value proposition for me as someone who grades regularly to just grade through GameStop, because then I could take a couple of cards. It's basically like rolling in, you know, I don't know, like using credit, essentially. Like your cash never has to leave your bank in order for you to grade cards in essence, right? Well, you can't do that now. That feature is gone. So to me, for someone like me, there's not a huge benefit to me submitting through GameStop entirely because, or necessarily because that major perk is gone. Now, having it be free shipping, you know, and having the ability to still trade in your cards there and get a nice little bump, those are cool, but really more suited to somebody who's not used to grading their own cards. And then as far as like some of the dashboard stuff that I talked about, not having the grade reveal feature, which is super fun on the PSA app, things like that are a little bit of a bummer, and I enjoy those, but it's not necessarily going to mess with the structure, the integrity of what the grading process should be. The good news is that the grading process, for the most part, goes exactly like you would expect. But as far as the overall turnaround time, I would say it's pretty consistent with what you should expect with grading from yourself. Now, 7 weeks is pretty darn good. That's 7 weeks, like including including weekends. So that is a very good turnaround time. And my bulk submissions lately have been every bit of 2.5 months for me to get them back. Now, granted, again, that's with the context of basically the first half of this year, PSA got so overloaded that they had to extend turnaround times to 65 business days for bulk, and they also had to jack up the price even more for per card for bulk as well. So knowing all that, it's still pretty quick. So I'm pretty pleased with the turnaround time, if I'm being completely honest. So overall, I think my assessment on this is that if you are someone who finds the process of grading cards potentially overwhelming, or maybe you've never done it before and you would kind of just like it to be as hands-off as possible, and you're cool with paying for the submission up front and then being able to potentially trade in those cards for other things gaming related. If you're a casual collector and you just want to slab some of your cards, GameStop's a great option. It really is. I'm not worried about losing my cards or anything like that. To be very clear, GameStop employees have very little touch points on your cards. You bring them in, they scan them, they put them in a bag, and they click a couple buttons. But then that goes into like the safe or into like a back room or something in a locked drawer or something like that. So anyways, the point is that I'm sure there's going to be situations where people are going to be afraid their cards will get stolen. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I am saying that for the most part, this should be a pretty simple, laid back experience for you. So if you're someone who finds this whole thing potentially overwhelming, GameStop really is a really good option. It's consistent pricing. You won't pay any more or any less. Actually, technically, you might pay a little bit less because, you know, free shipping. And if you grade a couple times a year, it pays for the membership in and of itself. And plus, you get $5 every month that you can apply for other things, or that you can use for other things as well. But if you're someone like me who grades on a regular basis and you're already very familiar with grading and you go through PSA on your own anyway, then there's not a tremendous amount of benefit to go through GameStop anymore. When I submitted these cards on July 23rd, that was just prior or maybe right around the same time where PSA had finally announced like, hey, we're going back to normal turnaround times. Everything's kind of smoothed over. We should be good. So I actually didn't get a chance to, which was the purpose of this video, really test grading through a third party like GameStop over myself to see if the turnaround time, because that's what mattered to me. How quickly could I get my cards back, and was the grading consistent? As you guys can see, I made it a little hard on myself because there were several vintage cards in this submission that I sent that I had no intentions of getting 10s on. They were just worth grading because, you know, it was worth it. So hopefully that helps you guys out there. My overall assessment is, if you're new to this and feeling overwhelmed, grade through GameStop. It's a pretty solid process. It's quick and easy. And the turnaround time was nice. I actually, 7 weeks is pretty darn good. From drop off to pickup, that's pretty darn good. And then if you're somebody, again, who's very experienced on grading their own cards and maybe doing this on a regular basis, and you're thinking, hey, should I maybe grade through a third party because maybe there's an advantage in getting it faster, or maybe there's like the trade-in perk or whatever that you might care about, those things aren't really the case, I would say. So I'll probably return to just grading on my own again, but would say that I didn't have a bad experience necessarily grading with GameStop. It's, you know, it was fine. It was fine. So hope this helps. Hope you guys enjoyed this very different type of video. This took me 7 weeks to record and get out to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you in the next video. See you.